Hey Neppers, it's me, Wild Neptune. This is going to be my review of the World of Warcraft, The War Within. After early access and a couple other days of playing, I have a few 80s right now. I've done most of the content in the game, and I feel like I can give my valued opinion on whether or not you should be playing this game if you're on the fence about it. Of course, a like, subscription, all of that is appreciated, but let's get into the meat of the video. There are 4 zones: Olive Dorn, the Mining Kobold Zone, which name I can't remember, Hollowfall, and Ashkahet, which is the Spider Zone. Each of them just flows very well right into each other and has a very distinct feel to them. For the most part, I feel like they do a really good job at giving you the vision of which each zone is supposed to be. Olive Dorn, you're learning a lot about the Earthen race, the Radiant Deeps. There, I remember the name. You do a lot of kobold related quests, so if you like kobolds like I do, you'll really like the zone. Hollowfall is this tug of war between light and darkness, where the zone literally turns into the Shadow Realm every 3 hours or so, and Asahet is basically Suramar from Legion. There's this big ass city in the open world, which is basically Nighthold, where you're doing a lot of scheming and espionage, which seems to be the theme of that zone. And then, of course, there are those scary looking spiders, but also cute looking spiders too. All the zones, they are designed with flying in mind. Like in Dragonflight, you were able to fly right away. Only dragon riding at first, but getting Pathfinder is as simple as exploring each of the zones 100%, which is really easy to do. There's a very good sense of verticality, even better than Dragonflight in my opinion, because a lot of the features are in the open world. So in Dragonflight, a lot of it which has these huge towers, and why were these towers here? Well, so we can fly up to them, and that was really it, right? But here you might have a big cliff or a huge chasm or something like that, and overall the world design just feels a lot more organic in my opinion. There's all these like little things that's scattered across the world. So we have this pick up every shiny mentality like I do. You might be sidetracked while you're doing your sidetrack, your side quest for a very long time. Delves are the big piece of content that they added to the game for this expansion, and they are pretty fun for the most part. Right now, we'll only have level 3 until Season 1 starts in a couple of weeks, and then the difficulty should ramp up a little bit after that. They content that you can clear as a solo player, but up to a group of 5. You get a delve partner in Season 1. It is Bran. In the future seasons, I'm assuming that we'll get other partners. I'm assuming the rest of the league, so Reno, Finley, and Elise. Each delve has a small gimmick that you have to do. Some as simple as don't step in this, but some are a little bit more complex. Some of them are like maintain a certain resource or perform certain tasks to advance. I don't really know how challenging they'll be when we actually start doing them for some actual good gear. And yes, you can get some pretty decent gear as a solo player from these delves, but they are pretty varied, and yes, there are a lot of them in the game. There are also some random events and puzzles and stuff like that you could also do in the delve to kind of break up the monotony of whatever you're doing, but they are definitely an interesting experience, I should say. Follower dungeons return, and one of the biggest gripes I had with Dragonflight's follower dungeons is that the followers, they were, well, incredibly weak. Almost useless, and this is from going into them with very low gear level relative and still out damaging all of the followers. And it was painfully slow. And remember, these are made for players that don't have a lot of gear, that don't really want to do all of the group content, or maybe just want to explore a spec or explore a build, and they don't really have an idea on if they don't like this class or like this talent, something like that. And you really didn't have that good of representation of what a group would be like in Dragon Quest follower dungeons. Yes, eventually, after many, many hours, you would eventually complete the dungeon, But here, the followers, well, they're actually pretty competent. I know we're only in pre S1 gear right now, uh, but you know what? They are not dead weight. Yes, they still pull mobs like you're playing classic, but you can always help them out a little bit with that. So we just want to see how something works, like a mechanic in the dungeon or a spec, or you just want to enjoy the dungeon at your leisure. Well, this is pretty good. And then there's the story. I don't really have any content, I mean footage here on the story, so just watch me do a random dungeon. But something I think a lot of people agree on is that the story, at least on a large scale, has not been very good since Legion. And while I think Dragonfly did add a lot of good stuff to the game, the story itself was a little bit kumbaya for my taste. There were too many quests. Like you would help this dragon whelp fix her stuffed duck. I really like that quest, by the way, but that's what the entire expansion of Dragonflight kind of felt like, in my opinion. On top of that, I did think that the Dragonflight main quest line felt a little bit too disjointed, where basically you went and you helped like each dragon faction do their thing, but there really wasn't much like interaction between them overall, besides maybe they would talk to each other every now and then. Here though, each of the quests and the zones, they flow into each other very well. You have much more interaction from the NPCs from what I've seen. So the story just kind of adds on top of each other. On top of that, Xalatath, and this is most important, is in the forefront and visible from the start. And the game establishes very early on that she is extremely threatening. A big issue I had with Firak, or Firak, whatever however you say his name, is that at no point in the expansion did I really feel like he was somebody you had to worry about. Like, you have like big hitters like the Lich King, Deathwing, the Legion, right? I guess the jailer's big problem was that you really never was told or revealed like much about him anyway, and he wasn't really doing anything that was super visible at the start. So they kind of have him and Farak kind of have like almost opposite issues, and Xalatath I feel like, at least early on, have avoided the pitfalls of those two previous villains. Of course, even good starts to stories can fall apart. Just look at Shadowlands, which I felt was very compelling early on, but the Blizzard, they had to stick the landing, right? They can't count on just because the expansion is good right now that'll be good in the future. Just look at something like WoD. Anyways, I'm having a good time playing the game so far. Warbands, which make everything account bound basically, at least from Dragonflight onwards, have made it so that I feel like I can have some more alts now and just have them kind of sit around and I can play them when I feel like it. I also won't be able to experience things like mythic raids or other raids like dungeons, stuff like that, until later on when season 1 starts. So hopefully have my experience on those when we get to them, if I get to them. But yeah, those are my thoughts on the game right now. If you liked WoW before, like I would say from, WoD, Miss onwards, you'll probably like it even better now. If you're more of a classic player and you like that experience, you probably want to be playing on Classic Realm, because let's be honest here, WoW has changed quite a bit, and I honestly think it's kind of foolish to expect a modern expansion to capture the feel of a very old expansion. When I say very old, of course, I'm talking about classic era type expansions. So, yeah, anyway, that's all I have for now. I'm Wild Neptune. It's been a good one. Nep out.